lecture series in political theory. Today I'll be speaking to you about Marxist theory of state. As students of political science, you all know that the question of state is central to political theory. What is the state? Why did it come into existence? What does it do or it doesn't do? Do we need the state at all? Why should we accept the authority of the state? Can we live without the state? These questions agitated the minds of political philosophers and thinkers from the times of Socrates. There are different philosophers and different schools of thought. They come out with different interpretations of the origin and purpose of the state. If we look at all these theories, we can observe that majority of them consider the state as indispensable institution, essential for security and progress of the humanity. They believe that the state is natural, ethical, neutral, and is required to promote the rights and welfare of the people. Even when the thinkers who are propounding such theories come across the states which are brutal, corrupt, and inefficient, still they feel that the human beings cannot live without the state. They at best advocated reforms that they thought would rectify the limitations or the inefficiencies of the state and make the state more responsible and efficient. Marxism differs from all these theories and schools of thought that look at the state as something natural, ethical, and beneficial. Classical Marxist theories of state, ideas on state, are visible in the works of Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, and Lenin. Among them, two works, Engels' book, Origin of the Family, Private Property, and the State, and Lenin's work, State and Revolution. They give us a comprehensive understanding of Marxist theory of the state. Other thinkers and Marxist scholars like Gramsci, Althusser, Bollanges, and Miliband, they also elaborated and concretized Marxist understanding of the state. However, this lecture primarily focuses on classical Marxist Leninist understanding of the state and revolution. So much of confusion or questions arise when we discuss about Marxist theory of the state. It is primarily because most of us do not understand the state in the way that the Marxists understood. So let us be clear about what Marxists mean by the term state. In contrast to theories that mystify and glorify the state, Marxism says that the state is basically an oppressive institution comprising of permanent organs like army, police, prisons, bureaucracy, judiciary, and the parliament. Is this state an eternal institution that always existed in all societies? Marxism says no. According to the Marxists, human society lived without the institution called state for thousands of years. In primitive communist societies, where nobody had monopoly over arms, there was no separate institution called state. As the institution of private property did not exist then, class divisions and class exploitation were conspicuous by their absence in those primitive tribal societies. It was only when the human society advanced from hunting and food gathering to pastoral and agricultural stage that this idea of stable property emerged. It was at that stage of material development that it became possible for the society to split into antagonistic classes, with the strong taking possession of the land and animals through violent means, depriving the others of access to means of production. These violent conflicts over the means of production, over control of the means of production, engulfed the whole society. It was at this stage of development of human history that the institution of state emerged, apparently as an autonomous entity which is above all classes, in order to maintain peace and order and ensure that the class contradictions don't destroy the whole society. When I say this, I know that some of you may feel that it is somewhat similar to what Rousseau was telling us when he spoke about the state of nature or emergence of the state. Rousseau also predicted that it is only after the birth of inequalities in the society and with the advent of civilization that the need for the state arose. But the difference lies in understanding the nature of the state. Rousseau believed that the state emerges out of social contract that espouses the general will of the society. A society which is already divided into classes. In that, he saw the possibility of a general will emerging and that becoming the base for the state. But this is something that the Marxists do not accept. Contrary to Rousseau, Marxists say that because the state arose out of the class contradictions, the state cannot remain neutral. It can only be a partisan that works to oppress the opposing classes and ensure the rule and domination of the propertied classes. In this sense, the state is always an instrument of the class, instrument of the ruling class. Hence it is a class state. Marxists say that the state so formed took different forms in different class societies. So every time the state power passed from one property class to another property class, so the nature of the state also changed. The state became more powerful, it became more powerful, and every class used the state, perfected the state further in order to serve its interest. So in every society or class divided societies, be it slave, feudal, or now the capitalist, the state is remained a state of the most dominant property class in that society. I know when I say this, some of you may contest this Marxism. You may ask how that could be true in modern democratic societies where the governments are elected by the people. You can also cite a number of examples showing how the modern state is helping the poor and even acting against the rich by imposing taxes and even punishing them for violation of the rules. The Marxist answer to such person, it goes like that. They say that liberal democratic state is also a class state. It is a bourgeois state. Despite existence of parliaments, universal adult franchise, and periodic elections, the state in capitalist societies work in the main for the capitalist class. The Marxists show how the capitalist classes influences the working of political parties, governments, and policy makers through different methods, through political donations, campaigns, or through corruption. According to the Marxists, the welfare measures and development of the public sector, they are not going to change the class character of the capitalist state. The poor in the capitalist society continue to be neglected, marginalized, and exploited in the capitalist societies. So here, liberal democracies as such cannot change the exploitative character of the capitalist economy. They do not have the capacity to put an end to capitalist exploitation or prevent the capitalist crisis. This they say because you keep on seeing many people. Why should the communists fight? Why can't they contest elections, form governments, and change capitalist economy and make it work for the poor? The Marxists say that it is not possible. Even if the communists come to power in capitalist societies, there is no way that they can change the nature of the capitalist economy through parliamentary acts and laws. As such, the inequalities continue to increase and the plight of the working class continues to deteriorate in capitalist societies. Hence, the working class organizes itself to fight against capitalism in order to establish socialist order. And it is here the question comes: revolution. Should this revolution be violent? Can't it be peaceful? You know that there are some schools of socialist thought which believe or which argue for peaceful transition from capitalism to socialism through parliamentarian means. This is something the Marxists say words of Marx, there was a time when even Marx believed in the possibility of a peaceful revolution in countries like England, where the working class was becoming radical. But the state was not still powerful enough. At that point of time, he saw that there may be chance for a peaceful revolution. But in course of capitalist development, all these capitalist countries became imperialists. And for their own imperialist ventures, they strengthened the state oppressive organs. So these oppressive organs are there not only to fight against the enemy countries. These oppressive organs are now used against the people also. So it is for this reason that Lenin says that it is not that we want revolution to be violent, but revolution becomes violent only because the state will make all out efforts to suppress any kind of revolutionary movement of the proletariat. So when the state uses force, there is no other way left for the proletariat or the working class other than taking up arms. So this, they say that in the present circumstances, peaceful revolution is ruled out. And the revolution, proletarian revolution, is bound to be violent. So the proletariat who realize that they are exploited, they organize themselves and into a militant class, and they fight against the state and captures the state power. So every revolution aims at capturing state power. In every revolution, one class captures the state power from other classes. That was the case in French Revolution and American War of Independence as well. But there, the colonizers or the feudal lords are overthrown and the bourgeoisie came to power. But in this revolution against capitalism, the proletariat seeks to capture the state power and overthrow the bourgeoisie from political power. This stage, this state becomes crucial, an element even in revolution. Yes, what will happen to the state once the proletariat captures the state power? When Marx and Engels were giving shape to their own theory of socialism, there were also other kinds of socialists operating in the Europe at that point of time. They had their own prescriptions as to what should be done once the proletariat captures the state power. Among them, there are two important diverse trends. There was a brand of socialism called German socialism, led by a thinker called Ferdinand Lassalle. He advocated that after the capture of the state power, the proletariat should democratize the capitalist state and use the same state to serve the interests of the proletariat. That means you use that same state with certain kinds of reforms and use it for building socialism. At another extreme, there were anarchists, led by thinkers like Bakunin. They believed that the state in any form is oppressive. State is, by its very nature, is exploitative. Hence, after the revolution, the proletariat should abolish the state in all forms and build socialism with the collective efforts of the proletariat without the states. So this has been the other kind of view as to what the proletariat should do after revolution. Opposing these two extremes, Marxists take the middle path. On the one hand, they argue that being oppressive in nature, oppressive and exploitative in nature, it is not possible to use the capitalist state to build socialism. You can't use capitalist state to build socialism. Hence, after the capture of the state power, the proletariat should destroy the capitalist state. After destruction of the capitalist state, in its place, the proletariat should establish their own proletarian state, which they call as dictatorship of the proletariat. They believe that this dictatorship of the proletariat is an intermediary stage between capitalism and communism. It is in this intermediary phase that the proletarian would suppress and eliminate all kinds of what you can say class revolts by the landlords or the bourgeoisie, create necessary socio-economic conditions for the advancement of socialism, and gradually take up necessary measures to pass over to communist stage. Many critics of Marxism ask, why is it that after the proletarian revolution, the Marxists, for example, revolution took place in Russia, China, and other places. The question is logical. They ask why that the Marxists or the communists failed to build communism. We will reserve this discussion on the practical obstacles that stood in the way of building communist society to some other time. But here I only say that the Marxists never claimed that communism can be built in a couple of years after the proletarian revolution. It requires several years. The society has to pass through several years of conflict under this intermediary stage called dictatorship of the proletariat before they step in the communist stage. Even in this communist stage, the Communist Manifesto actually speaks, it talks of two stages of communism. In the first stage, which to some extent coincides with what Lenin or Stalin would say, socialism. Still there will be inequalities. Inequalities will not disappear altogether. Yes, you may eliminate the bourgeoisie as a class, but still there will be inequalities. So during that first stage of communism, Marx and Engels speak of the principle of each according to his ability and each according to his work. Here, in this stage, the people will get according to their work. So there will be still inequalities. Some will get more, some may get less, based on the work or their contribution. But it is only as production advances and the society reaches the stage of abundance, difference between rural and urban disappears. The difference between mental labor and manual labor ceases to exist. And with that, even the national differences and class differences, they disappear in all forms. It is only at that stage, a higher stage, or the second stage of communism emerges, where a new law operates, that is, each according to his ability and each according to his needs. So here it is not the work, each each will get according to the needs. What does it mean? It means that in this stage, the production reaches such an abundance that there is no need for anybody to quarrel or to demand that I worked more, so I have to get more. Here, everybody will get what they want to get, because the society has that much to give, all that one wants. So this is the stage, higher stage of communism. It is only when we reach that higher stage of communism that Marx says the need for state disappears. There is no need for state in the sense of these oppressive organs, police, military, bureaucracy, judiciary. Such oppressive class organs, their existence becomes meaningless, because there are no other classes to oppress or to suppress. And the people are conscious enough, and they are capable enough to address their problems in a collective, unconscious and democratic ways without any need for the state. It is at that point of time Marxists say that the state becomes superfluous. It becomes redundant. As it becomes redundant, it withers away. This is the expression that Marx says. The proletarian state, when it succeeds in passing or in entering this stage of communism, gradually the state becomes more and more useless, and a point comes when the state is no more required, hence the state withers away. This is the expression that they say. It is not that the state is destroyed. The destruction of the state becomes necessary at the stage when the proletariat captures the state power from the capitalists. But the proletarian state need not be destroyed. It just vanishes. This is precisely the Marxist understanding of state and revolution. It looks romantic in one way, but I also know that many of you may think this is more utopian and it is not possible and all that. Whether you accept this theory or whether you still have doubts or a different viewpoints, it doesn't matter. I'll be happy to know what you think about Marxist theory of state. Write to me, write in the comment section, and I will try to address the questions if I have the answers for the same. And now, before I stop I say that I will take up another lecture. It is not a lecture. I will take another class where I will read out passages from classical Marxist works to make you understand how the Marxists looked. They themselves explained what all I have been explaining in simple terms. So we will have a look at some of the passages from Marxist literature, and at the same time I will also give you some references, some books and articles which may help you to understand the nature and dynamics of the state in a more elaborate way. Right now, thank you very much, and we'll meet soon in the next class.